and welcome to Office Chair Yoga, an opportunity to move and then take these movements with you throughout the day and take little movement breaks as you're sitting in your chair working diligently. It'll give you energy, and it will also give you a rejuvenation to really want to dive into your work after you've recentered and regrounded yourself with some movement. Movement is medicine. So hopefully these little movement breaks will allow you to have opportunities to engage in these things throughout the day. I put it in the chat box, but grab either a book. I grabbed a basket, which just was in the playroom, and this is my child's basket, or here's a book. You just really need something, an item, even like a towel or a pillow. Pillow may be too big, but something small that you can visualize as you put your foot up and over this item. And what we're going to work on today is the hips. So I want to kind of go over a mini tutorial about the hips. So hips, we commonly think of our hips as being, where our hands rest when we're standing. But this is really the top of the pelvis. Our hips, our hip joints are really below that. So your hip joint is really what moves your leg into flexion and extension. So the hip is an amazing ball and socket joint. Just like our shoulder is a ball and socket joint, the hip's an even sturdier, much sturdier ball and socket joint. So it has the capability to flex and extend. It has the capability to abduct, so go to the side, or adduct, go in. It also has the ability to rotate externally and internally. So the hip's an amazing thing, but when we sit all day, we keep it in really one position. So the goal for today is for us to hydrate, make our hips happy, hydrate our happy hips, and move them in all those different directions that they're capable of doing so that we can keep them hydrated and healthy. So with that, go ahead and come to your seat. And again, a seat without, any sort of wheels on the bottom is better. Something sturdy, something simple, something not very high. And if it's too high for you, you can always elevate the floor by putting blocks underneath. And I'm gonna go ahead and put my basket off to the side. We'll grab it in a minute. And come and wiggle yourself to the edge of the seat. Ground down through your sit bones, which is the base of your pelvis, and pull belly to spine. Lengthen through the spine. So feel a tallness come up through your seat as you lengthen, and feel a lightness in your head. Maybe you want to connect with your breath by placing one hand over your heart, one hand over your belly, and just breathing in and out of your nose. So remembering the breath that comes in and out of the nose is what allows us to relax and connect with ourselves. Just breathing in and out, connecting, and maybe you want to switch. Maybe you find a position that's more comfortable to you. Sometimes I like my left arm, a hand on top of my right hand on my belly, and sometimes I like it the other way. Just whatever feels good to you can ground you. Feel a lightness in the crown of your head as your head feels light. Think of it as a lollipop on top of a stick. So you don't want your head going forward like we like to keep it when we're, on the computer, or even over exaggerated back. You really want that lollipop centered on top of the stick, on top of your head, and feel the lightness in the crown as you lengthen, pulling belly to spine, rooting down through the tailbone, which will be sitting on the base of the pelvis, or your sit bones. And exhale fully through the nose. Now inhale fully. As you bring air in, think about expanding the ribs to the front, side, and the back. So bringing that air into the back, and exhale. Still grounding, however feels comfortable to you. Exhale all the way out. Inhale, bring the breath in and up as you expand through the front, but also through the side and the back. So the whole cylinder of the lungs here contained within your chest cavity. One more time. Exhale fully. Inhale fully through the nose. Feel tall, feel length, feel the rib cage lift out of the pelvis as you expand to the sides, the front, and the back. And exhale, release. Great work. Let's go ahead and turn our head to the left. and hold it there. Take your second and third finger on your left hand and at the base of your chin, gently rotate it a little further. Feel a little stretch, not too much, just a gentle traction. Inhale, back center. Exhale to the right. And again, take that second and third finger and just assist that movement just a few more millimeters, maybe just a little bit, just to allow that traction on these neck muscles that feel really tight. And inhale, back center. From here, we're going to bring our left ear to our left shoulder. Allow the weight of the head to release some of these neck muscles here. And if you want to, you can add your right hand down like it's a stop sign pressing into the floor. I'm feeling a little tight today, so I'm going to go ahead and assist my head, and you can do it too if it feels good to you, by placing my left hand on top of my head and just adding a little more traction. As I do that, though, I'm maintaining a neutral spine by pulling belly to spine, rooting down the tailbone, sitting on my sits bones, really sitting up tall, allowing my scapula to rest in their back pockets back there. And I'm going to take my left hand and assist my head back up. Inhale, deep breath in. Exhale, right ear to right shoulder. Feel the release along the left side. Allow the shoulders to relax, pulling belly to spine, really anchoring through the sit bones. And again, I'm going to extend my left palm. That adds a little more traction here. And I'm still feeling tight today, so I'm going to take my right hand and assist with a little bit of a traction, just a little bit. You don't want to yank it down. You just want to add a little bit of weight. This is really just adding weight. And so you're working with gravity. And take that right hand and lift your head back up. From here, we're going to alternate shoulder rolls, releasing the scapula or the shoulder blades from the back, trying to find where neutral is for us on our back. So again, finding the scapula, you can do that by hugging yourself and finding the edge of the scapula, and remembering the scapula is what leads motion of the shoulder, which then leads motion of the arm. And go ahead and add the propeller. So really sitting tall, place the fingers on top of your shoulders and just alternate propelling back. So still pulling belly to spine, just alternate propelling back. Release the stickiness there, that fascia that gets all gooky and stuck. Release it so you can mobilize the shoulders and the scapula. Great work. Let's see here. Oh yeah, from here, we're gonna extend our arms out in front of us. So pretend like you're about to hug somebody. So we're gonna call this a bear hug scrub. So I'm gonna turn to the side, and what you wanna do is alternate moving your arm forward like you're still hugging somebody. They're not there, they're invisible, but maintaining that arm length so it's in line with your shoulders, so your arms are about shoulder width apart, and your hands are directed a little bit in, and they're kind of curved out. Your elbows are curved out like you want to hug somebody, and you just alternating moving front and back. So feel how you're scrubbing your scapula back and forth, releasing. That may feel really good. Just alternating that here, taking the stickiness away. And from here, go ahead and interlace your fingers. So here's what it looks like from the front. If this does not feel available to you, you can go ahead and change your hands into stop signs. Interlace your fingers. Now puff out the back. As you puff out the back, you're actually separating your scapula or your shoulder blades. Now let's do the opposite. Let's bring it back in and feel your shoulder blades come together and retract in together. So again, puff out like there's a puff of air that's pushing your scapula away from one another, kind of like that cat back stretch in your thoracic spine. And inhale back and bring your scapula back together at midline, remembering to sit tall here. One more time, press it out and away. Inhale, bring the scapula back together. From here, this is a little bit of a brain tease or a little bit of brain mapping. Hold your pelvis stable. So hold it stable here and just move your arms like a circle. So like like the wheel and an axle is taking you around, up and over. So keeping the pelvis steady. You don't want to rock the pelvis forward or back or even to the side. Let's go the other way. Let's reverse it. So we're bringing it in, then pressing out, bringing it in and pressing out. And you can really exaggerate this movement with your scapula. And oh, and it feels so good. Such a great release. And again, if that's not available to you, you can always change your hands into stop signs and do the same thing. Great work. Place your hands on your thighs. From here, we're going to bring our arms out in front of us, and then we're going to bring them out to the side. So the palms are facing towards the front. Now flip your palms down and flip them up. So what we're doing is we're internally and externally rotating at the shoulder joint. This is what I want you to feel when we move to the hips. So you can do the same thing at the hips because it's a ball and socket joint. Now let's bring them forward so they're right in front of you. Now let's bring them up, flipping the palms back and forth. So this is internal and external rotation of the shoulders. Great job. And bring them back to a T here. From here, I want you to take your right arm, lift it up. Now really lift up so you feel a stretch in the side body. Now take your left hand and grab at the base of the wrist. There's actually a little divot there, and lift up and over. And if you want to ground that stretch, place your left hand on the side and really reach the side body, reaching the seam of the side body here. And great job. Let's do it to the other side. Lift the left arm up. Now you'll feel a point where it kind of gets stuck. Reach further because that means you're mobilizing your scapula up. Take your right hand, grab your left hand, and there's a little divot like right at the base of the thumb where the hand meets the base of the arm or right at the wrist, and pull on that and lift up and over. It's going to give you a little more exaggeration stretch in that side body. And if you want to, you can ground that right hand at the base here, right on the seat, and lean into it a little further. Yummy, that stretch feels so good. All right, let's bring our hands back to our legs. We're going to start working on our hips now. So from here, maybe you need to wiggle yourself back to the edge of your chair, ground your sit bones. You want to go ahead and bring your left leg into the chest. So this is hip flexion. Maybe even take your second and third fingers and stick it right there in the hip and lift up. Now go ahead and clasp your hands under your leg and extend out your leg. Flare those feet. So free the toes, free the feet. Maybe you even try and bring your flexion of your toes one at a time and see if that's possible. I have a hard time doing that. From here with your leg extended, what we're going to do is we're going to rotate to the right, then rotate to the left. But when you're doing this the movement is coming from the hip joint. So you're internally and externally rotating the hip joint just like you did with your arms when they were out to the side and you were flipping your palms. So you really want the motion to come from the hip. We're just scrubbing out the hip right here. We're allowing that ball and socket joint to have full range of motion and movement. Great work. So just make sure that movement is initiated from the hip. And go ahead and let that left leg come down. Now bring the right knee into chest. Again, clasp the hands underneath your hamstrings or underneath your thighs. Extend your leg out. Flare the toes. Look at them. Let's see if you can separate them. It's tough. This is a hard thing to do. And maybe you fan them. And so you like flex the toes one at a time and see what they do. I have a hard time doing that. It's a great exercise. We are going to work on our feet next week, I think, feet and ankles. Okay, from here, go ahead and make sure your movement is coming from your hip joint or right where the femur meets the pelvis, but we're just gonna take our toes and go to the right, then to the left, to the right, to the left. So again, you're internally and externally rotating the hip joint. So right where the femur meets the base of the pelvis. It's not easy. You really have to think about it. Great work, and release that down. And from here, we're gonna take so find your block or book or whatever you have. So a textbook, a towel, we just need the visual. Place it under the right foot. And from here, we're gonna take our right foot, anchor down your pelvis up and over, okay? Now we're gonna bring the right foot back. So what you're doing is you're just bringing the right foot up and over, but the movement is initiated from the hip joint. So really anchor down your pelvis, pull belly to spine, keep a tall spine as you lift your foot up and over. This is not easy. This is really engaging the hip joint in a complex movement. It's a little bit of an adduction and an abduction, but it's also a little bit of rotation, a little bit of extension. It's more of a complex movement of the hip. Great work. Now let's take this block or book or whatever you have and place it under your left foot. And this really under your left foot is just a way to have a starting position. So you want it to start with the object, whatever it is, right under your foot, and then take your foot out to the side and then lift it up and over. So you're just moving up and over, really focusing, trying not to touch that object, pulling belly to spine, sitting up tall. It really helps me if I take my second and third finger and place it in my hip, because this keeps my movement isolated at the hip. I'm brain mapping here, trying to distinguish my hip motion from the pelvis, because we really don't want to move the pelvis. We want to keep this stable. This is tough. Let's do it one more time. Great work. Okay, and you can remove that object. I'm just going to put mine over to the side here. From here, take your left knee to the left and take your right knee to the left. So you're kind of staggered. Your knees are bent at about 90 degrees. This is like a pigeon pose. So both knees are over to the left and they're both bent. Now lift up and over, both knees go to the right. Up and over, both knees go to the left. Continue with this motion. So you're really moving that ball in the socket. One leg is an internal rotation and the other leg is an external rotation. Just keep that movement back and forth. Really control the movement. Think about it when you move and don't just flop the legs over. Make it a really an action of intent. You're really doing this with intention and not just flopping over. Okay, a little bit different. From this time, we're going to hold it over to the right. So your front leg, you're over to the right, is coming out and your back leg is staying back. We're going to go into a 90 degree low lunge. You're going to allow your back leg to continue to rest on the seat of the chair and your front leg to come up on the ball of your foot. So this is a 90 lunge. So front or back leg is at 90 degrees and the front leg is at 90 degrees. This is a low lunge position, and you're going to wiggle yourself off the edge of your chair so that this back sit bone is resting on the edge of the chair. Engage the glutes of the front leg, and by engaging the glute muscles, you'll extend this hip, and you're going to really feel elongation, lengthening, and a stretch in this front hip. So both knees are directed to the right, your gaze is to the right, and you're allowing hip extension, which is releasing the hip right here in a 90 degree low lunge. Option to extend the front arm up, lift, 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 and option to take it over to the side as you allow yourself to lean into the palm, the grounded palm on the seat. Ooh, that stretch feels so good, coming all the way from your toes up to your fingertips, but really allowing the stretch in that hip flexor. Great work. Let's release our arm and turn both knees to the left. So we're in a pigeon pose on the left. We're going to do a 90 low lunge on the other side. So the back leg is forward in this 90 degree position. The front leg is up on the ball of the foot. Now you're allowing this front leg to hang off the side to really allow for some hip extension, some room for hip extension, but the seat of your back leg, so your hip bone, is grounded onto the edge of your chair. So that's how you can position yourself. So really you're sort of hanging halfway off the chair. From here, really activate the front glute muscles. So as you activate the front glute muscles, what you're going to do is extend the hip. And when that hip extension occurs, you will feel a lengthening on the front hip. So that is a great way to stretch out the hip flexors by driving that front hip forward with glute engagement, excuse me. From here, option to lift your front arm up and allow it to keep extending up. Reaching, reaching, reaching. As you extend up and lengthen, you'll feel the seam of the side body also lengthen, and reach up and over. You're grounding through the palm of the seat that's on the chair to allow for full length of the side body, all the way from the toes to the fingertips. And lift up and over. Great work. That's a low lunge. There we go. That is a really big hip release. That feels great. You can do that throughout the day. It's so good when you sit in this sitting position all day. Okay. So from here, we're going to work on hip extension and hip flexion. So ground through the feet, pull belly to spine. Go ahead and take your hands to the side of you and levitate up. So you're just levitating up off the base of your chair. Okay. Now let's sit back down. So I want you to see what that feels like. I'm going to turn to the side. Really anchor through your feet. Now ground through your feet as you use your glutes to lift up and levitate here. Now come to full hip extension. So we're doing those squats and we're working on hip extension and hip flexion. So as you sit back, really push back with your second and third fingers so you hinge at the hips first. And what will happen when you hinge at your hips first and sit back, your knees will follow and then your ankles will follow in the flexion, which is really the functional way to move up and down. And then maybe calm down to the chair and maybe you need to grab the side of the chair to anchor you down. Let's do that a little faster. Inhale up, grounding through the feet, come to full extension, engage the glutes, exhale, sit back, press the hips back, the knees and the ankle will follow. Inhale, come all the way up to standing, drive the hips forward as you engage the glute, exhale, hinge at the hips, sit back as you come to the back of the chair, the base of the chair. Inhale, extend up, drive through the hips, engage the glutes, come to full standing, skull, scapula, sacrum in line, ears in line with shoulder, press through the hips, hinge them back, take that second and third fingers and sit them back. Let's do that one more time. Inhale up, drive through the heels, engage the glutes, come to full standing, exhale, hinge at the hips, press them back with that second and third finger as you keep the spine long, keep the neck in line with the spine, don't jut the chin out, keep the neck in line and sit back. Great work. All right, I'm going to come back to face y'all. From here, we're going to do that same thing. Come all the way up to standing. One more time, full hip hinge, and turn around and face your chair. So we're moving into that quadruped position. So facing your chairs, place your palms on your chair, on the seat of the chair. Really engage the palms here. Think about dialing the hands out energetically. So you're not actually moving them, but you're energetically dialing them out towards the pinky. So activate the armpits here. You want to activate those armpits to maintain a safe shoulder girdle, keeping the head of the arm bone in a central position. From here, we're going to do some hip exercises. So we're going to bring our knee into the chest, and then we're going to extend it out, but keep your knee bent, okay? Now pull belly to spine. Don't move your pelvis. Don't tip in the pelvis left or right. Keep it parallel to the floor. But as you can see, my hip is extended, so this is my hip, but my knee is bent at 90 degrees. So let's try that one more time. So knee into the chest. This is hip flexion. Now extend the leg out. This is hip extension, but my knee is still flexed, okay? Let's do this with our breath. Exhale in. Inhale, extend it out. Exhale, knee to chest. Inhale, extend it out. Really think about the glute muscles as you move that leg in and out. We're just working all the areas of the hip. Pull belly to spine. Really think about lengthen the spine. You don't want to droop your head. Really engage your armpits of power. So engage your shoulder girdle as you move. Great work. From here, we're going to do a little bit of a different move with hip external rotation. So go ahead and bend that same knee And it's at about 90 degrees. Now come out to the side. So you can call this dog T-pose if you want. That's what my kids call it. And bring it back in. Externally rotate out the side. This is for all you state fans. Bring it back in. Externally rotate out to the side and bring it back in. Externally rotate out the side and bring it back in. One more time. Externally rotate out. So leg is out and bring it back in. Let's come up to standing. Great work. And maybe you tick-tock your hips back and forth, just releasing. We're going to change this into a complex movement of the hip. Good job. Okay. So here we go. Bend knee into the chest. Extend the hip all the way out, really rooting through the palms. So pull belly to spine. From here, we're going to bring the knee in and then come out. So there's that dog pee pose and come back. Bring the knee into the chest, come to the side and back out. Bring knee into the chest, come to the side and then extend the hip. We're going to reverse it. So you have the hip extended, come out to the side and bring the knee back in. Extend the hip all the way back, come out to the side, bring it back in center. One more time. Extend the hip all the way, engage the glute, come out to the side, bring it back in, and come up to standing. Great work. Maybe you tick-tock the hips back and forth. Just releasing here. We got to do the other side. I'm going to turn so y'all can see me. So again, you're in that quadruped position. Rooting through the hands. Engage your armpits of power by dialing out the hands energetically towards the pinkies. When you feel steady and strong and sturdy, go ahead and extend that. This is going to be your right leg out. Okay, so you're in full hip extension. Let me get so you can see me. And from here, bend the knee in 90 degrees. So it's you're in hip extension with your knee in flexion here. Now knee into chest, extend it out. Knee into chest, extend it out. As you exhale, bring the knee into chest and extend. Now remember, you're wanting to keep your pelvis stable, so don't open your hip here. You want to keep your pelvis stable and parallel and level to the earth. Good job. From here, we're going to take that hip in the external rotation by bringing the leg out to the side, whatever you want to call this pose, and bring the knee back in. Out to the side and bring the knee back in. Out to the side, really rooting through the hands. Activate the armpits here to keep stability in the spine. Remember, you want the spine long. And take it out to the side and bring it back in. Come all the way back up. Remember, you can tick-tock here. Release the hips. That may feel really good. Now let's add that complex movement. So same leg. So it should be your right leg, but whatever that second leg is that you're working on. Bend the knee into the chest. Extend it out. Now, as you bend the knee into the chest, come out to the side and then back around. Bring the knee into the chest, out to the side, and back around. Bring the knee into the chest, out to the side, and back around. Let's go the other way. So the foot is up like you're pressing up to the ceiling with your foot flexed. Bring it out to the side and back in. So leg comes up, out to the side, back in. Two more times. Leg comes up, press the ceiling away, come out to the side and back in. One more time. You can do it. Bring the leg up, out to the side and back in. Woo! Great work. You really move that hip in all directions. Great work. You can even make circles here. Sometimes circles feel good to release the hips back and forth. And let me check on our time. We are nearly there, aren't we? Okay, we'll do one more thing because we're still working on the hips. Okay, come to the back of your chair. And I'm going to take this away again so you can see me. But have your feet a little bit more than hips distance apart and bring your toes out, heels in. And with that, come down, bending your knees. So you really want to make sure you're pulled belly to spine, but your tailbone roots down. So maybe find those hip points and pull them up. So you want length in the spine, tailbone rooted down, really engage through the glute muscles and create some space in the hips. So think about the rib cage coming up out of the pelvis. You really want a feeling of space here instead of sinking into the hips, a feeling of space. So this is tough, isn't it? I know you're feeling it as I'm sitting here talking. So grab the back of your chair, and from here, we're going to go down for 4 really, really slow. I'm just taking the chair away so you can see me, but down for 4, very, very slow, controlling, up for 4. Good. Down for 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Pull belly to spine and up for 4, 2, 3, 1. Take it to 8. 8. Bring it down slowly. Control. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And come up. Lift the pelvis up. Pull and gather the core together as you come up. Great work. Now come back to that open-toed, open hip. It's like a goddess position, pulling belly to spine. Feel really tall. Feel like there's a string coming out of your head, pulling you up, lengthening your rib cage out of the pelvis. I know this is really tough. I feel it. Now lift your left arm up. Bring it back down. Now lift your right arm up. This is going to be our last thing, I promise. Bring it back down. And if it's available to you and it feels okay to you, still engaging the glutes, pulling belly to spine, feeling really strong, send both arms up. Now I want you to feel the power in this pose. How strong do you feel? Feel that siphon of energy coming from the ground all the way out. Woo, and bring it up. Heel toe the feet together. Great work. And maybe you just tick-tock your hips side to side. Maybe you rotate them in a circle. Great work. And deep inhale in. Fill all the way up, all the air spaces. Exhale. Bring the hands to heart center. I hope your hips feel released and like you got full movement in your hips today. It is really brain mapping and really practicing working on these motions and these different positions to find the hips and to find full movement. So just stick with it because it does get easier thinking about all the different ways the hip moves, but it's so nutritious to move the ball in the socket in all the ways it was intended to move. And again, I'm going to leave you with a point quote for today, and we'll work on hips again Thursday. So your quote for today is, when we choose love, we choose to move against fear, against alienation and separation. The choice to love is a choice to connect, to find ourselves in the other. So I wanted to share that with you because it resonated with me, knowing that you all are choosing love for yourself, moving with love, thinking about yourself so that you can do more for others. And I really do feel like this is a way for us all to connect when we feel separated physically. So I really appreciate you being here. Practice some of those movements throughout the day, and we'll work on them again. The hip is very complex, so just stick with it, and we will move it in all the ways it was intended to move. So y'all have a wonderful, wonderful day, and thank you for being here. Take care.